Welcome, everyone, to another episode, episode 17 of Signs, Planets, and Stellar Rhythms. And in this episode, we are going to look at the insights and timings in the month of April 2021. This is resuming the regular episodes that I've been doing for just over a year now, and this series of Signs, Planets, and Stellar Rhythms providing you with regular updates to what is going on in the astrological, sphere, the planets themselves, the seasonal changes, the alignments, the connection to stars, and of course, even more importantly, with ourselves and what that activates within our lives. Um, so in this episode with April here, there is definitely some shifting going on from what we've been experiencing, and some deeper level connections to the process that we've been moving into over these last few months, especially since the changeover from the Capricorn and Aries dominated alignment with the stellium of Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto, and its alignment with Aries. And there's another octave here in April with, I would say directly from the end of March into April with certain kind of stellium and the sign of Aries right now, and how that's still impacting the relationship with Aquarius and in our own lives. So I'm going to go over the highlights for this month, and we can get into this. But first, let's take a look at just acknowledge and honor the stars and the planets and all our relations and creation itself. For this is the gift that we have from creation, the breath of creation that we are in relationship with. And it isn't necessarily, quote, a cause and effect, that these planets are the things that cause ourselves to be this way, but it's in the co-creative relationship that we have with the planets and the signs, and the very primal ancient archetypes that live within our psyche, that live within us and extend into our flesh and blood, and all of that goes into it. All of the systems in our being and our senses, everything that is. We are part of this cosmic creation, and it's just here to give thanks and be grateful for each and every breath that we have here in this life, and moving forward into the next chapter of this existence we have here and now, in this case, coming up here in the month of April. All right, let's take a look at the highlights. Well, I'm going to go over the full and new moons for this upcoming month. Venus, Mercury in Taurus with Uranus in the underworld, and so I say that in the underworld, meaning that they are not visible to the naked eye. And then Pluto and Vesta change directions. We've been in a few months since Mercury went direct in February. We've been in, and that was only a 3-week period. And then before that, we were also in a period of direct motion for a while in January into February, where all planets were in direct motion. And again, they're currently in direct motion until later this month, when Vesta shifts and Pluto shifts. So actually, Vesta has been retrograde. It's more the planets in direct motion are the main planets that we use in astrology. My main astrology are moving. So the next one to go into that space is Pluto, moving into stationary retrograde. And then we're going to also take a look at the Aries stellium, and see what's going on there and why that's so important in the month of April, and has been kind of building into that space, something I talked about in a previous episode in March. All right, so let's look at some important dates coming up in April. April 3rd, Mercury joins the party in Aries, and then there's also a Vesta Ceres conjunction. and something I talked about in the last episode is on April 6th and 7th, we have the moon moving into conjunction with both Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius. On the 11th, a new moon occurs, and there will be, let's see, there will be the moon, Chiron, Mercury, Ceres, Sun, Eris, and Venus, all in the sign of Aries. All right, then on April 14th, Venus ingresses into the sign of Taurus. On the 16th, the Sun squares Pluto. This is an important thing I'm going to talk about later. On the 19th, Mercury and the Sun are in Taurus, and they move in Taurus on the same day, and they have a conjunction then. Vesta stations direct at 6:41 Virgo. On April 22nd, there's a Venus-Uranus conjunction in Taurus. So there's a lot of action, a transition from Aries into Taurus for some of these planetary bodies and the Sun as well. April 23rd, the Mars moves into the sign of Cancer. And at the same day, there's a Mercury-Uranus conjunction, again, in Taurus. Mercury-Venus in Taurus. So you can see the buildup from the Aries stellium back in the second week of April, first and second week of April, and then into the third week and beyond into Taurus. And then Pluto stations retrograde in Capricorn, 2648. So we're in the last few years of Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, and this is really vitally important for the United States in particular, and how that impacts the rest of the globe. And then on that same day, there's a full moon in Scorpio, which I'll cover. April 30th, Sun conjunct Uranus in Taurus. So Uranus is definitely being activated in a big way this month because of the Sun, Mercury, and Venus all connecting into that. But also one of the main themes, the primary theme here of Saturn square Uranus, they're kind of loosened up a bit because Saturn has moved on a bit since its exact square in February. But in June, there's a second one of the three this year in 2021. And also to talk about that Mercury and Venus are not, or the Venus is not visible the entire month, and Mercury is invisible for a period of about 2.5 weeks between April 9th and the 27th, when it's transitioning on the other side of the sun, where the sun is between Earth and Mercury is going from a morning star into an evening star apparition. All right, let's take a look at the first that we have. This is something I covered in the last episode. I just want to reconnect with it. Venus and Ceres meet in Aries in the sign, at 16 degrees, 14 minutes Aries. Venus represents the feminine principle and Ceres, the Earth Mother. There's a lot of complexity here. There definitely emphasis on Aries, and this kind of gets people, gets the astrological energy flowing in this sign more. So fighting, and this is certainly bringing in themes around what Eris brings in, the dwarf planet Eris, and how that contributes to our experience here on Earth, especially when its relationship with the sign of Aries. So this is about the feminine, and every time we get into this, there's a deepening level of the experience of the feminine and the connection to really standing up and speaking the truth, and not being afraid to speak that truth, not being afraid to stand up for oneself, not being afraid to take up a cause, a mission, a purpose, and to act decisively, and to act, being able to trust one's instincts in this process, but also to, and this is more into the Ceres area, along with contributions from Chiron, also in Aries, is the pain and the wounding from generations, from many generations past into today, of the you might say the transition from the the matriarchal and matrilineal cultures to patriarchal and patrilineal cultures. This is the activation, the connection to not a reestablishment of the old ancient ways, but finding a new territory, finding a new path toward greater harmony, and as well as healing and processing the grief as something important to integrate, not to ignore. There's larger issues there that could be discussed in a longer video segment. But those are the sort of the main components there. And Chiron continues to play a really important role in this particular time period, with it being in the sign of Aries right now. Okay, so there's the Saturn and Jupiter moon conjunctions. This is part of the continued theme of Aquarius in this year that I talked a lot about in earlier videos. What the moon does, whenever the moon, if you're looking outside and connecting, oh, the moon is moving into conjunction with a planet or a star, you can think of it astrologically as a activation point, from symbolically speaking, of that sign of that planet. So strong Aquarius themes are definitely a big part of this 2021, and especially its relationship to Taurus because of Uranus's position, the Saturn-Uranus relationship this year. So what does Aquarius do? Aquarius symbolizes the expansion of consciousness, innovation, experimentations, and avant-garde of progress. And I say that word very loosely. This is certainly depends on one's. It's so vague. It depends on one's definition of that word. So progress meaning, kind of this like linear state of progress and always making strides. Well, I don't think that that's necessarily what I'm or what is really suggested here. It's more like progress of one's own development, the deepening of an understanding of, especially in Aquarius, is the expansion of consciousness, which can sometimes take what we might feel in a linear way, going backwards or going sideways. But in those cases, we might have really important breakthroughs. And I think in this case, especially with Saturn's entry into Aquarius the next few years, technologically, and not just breakthroughs to have breakthroughs, but things that would benefit and be practical to use here in civilization, through the use of certain energy, actual production of energy, different technologies and computer technologies, medical technologies, and especially with Uranus in Taurus, meaning that it's connected to the physical realm as well, and our own health and pleasure and comforts. Also longer term approaches, things that are more sustainable, things that are not just a one and done and a sort of a throwaway type of societal convenience that we've been in for many decades now. I think this is ushering in a completely new process of worldview and how we view and our connection to the Earth environment and how we can improve upon that. All right, so Mercury in Aries. This is again more themes about Aries. Mercury's in Aries for just 17 days, so it moves really fast at this time. After it spent about 2 months in the sign of Aquarius, because that was the time when it was going through retrograde and it went direct. So it took a while to get through that sign. Mercury represents the mind, communication, perception, and the method of thinking. Aries is an all-in to mission and purpose, to serving and defending the culture, community, family. And with the abundance of Aries energy in April, as Mercury goes through that, as Venus goes through that, combined with the Sun, Chiron, and Eris, this could present a certain momentum going forward, but it could go up against certain a counter effort. So with every effort, with every push towards a certain direction, there can be it could create during a time of Aries a certain reaction of the opposite, sort of a counterpart to that, and that could create more volatile experience, especially when we're dealing with, like we've been having in debates in the political sphere, as well as how to solve certain problems in all around the world, and here in the United States, economic problems associated with COVID-19, and all the fallout from what took place last year, and trying to, you might say, right the ship, and all the different ideas and other thoughts that might create solutions. And how some are resisting because they just want to resist against any rules, just because, that's sort of their nature. And the Aries can create this sort of this, arena for which things to do, ideas and policy viewpoints which do battle. So Aries is that way of communicating, and it's, as it moves into Taurus, with this, that could be and other planets moving in Taurus, that could soften things up a little bit. Although, because Uranus is there, that could go into unexpected directions. All right, so on April 11th, we have a new moon in Aries, and this is, we can think of the new moon as a seed point, and to, if someone wanted to create a project or something long term, or even just something that they want to do and construct, and maybe plant, a certain, like, especially this time of year, it's a great time for things to be, to grow. April 11th could present a time to kind of have that, to draw in Aries energy in which to, in the gardening front, or in, maybe starting a new business or a new project, starting new something, having a new vision. This could be a way for us to connect into that. And Eris is not far. This Aries new moon takes place at 22 degrees 24 minutes Aries, and Eris is only 2 degrees away from that. Venus is only 4 degrees away from that. So we can see that this can create, on one level, volatility, and on another level, like, really being able to not just remain hidden, to actually use your instincts, use your your wit to create something that you really want to put forth into the world. And this is not a time to, quote, just lay down, and it can be trying to be patient during this time, and this could be testing our patience, in this space. Okay, so Venus moves into Taurus on April 14th, and it stays there until May 8th. So it has a natural resonance with Taurus. In fact, traditional astrology puts Venus and Taurus together. It also brings Libra also into the sort of the rulership of from Venus in traditional astrology. In shamanic astrology, we look at this as a resonance, that the Venus representing the feminine principle, and Taurus representing the aesthetics of life, the pleasures, and the receiving of the pleasures from the garden of earthly delights. This is us connecting to that beauty, connecting to what is pleasurable, what is beautiful for ourselves and in the world. And I think especially during this time, towards the end of April, as Venus meets Uranus on the 22nd and Mercury on the 25th, this could be a wild combination. I describe it as a sort of a wild combination of sense, electricity, and a colorful and thorough mind kind of exploding at the seams. We're going in wild directions and connecting to what is comfortable to us, what is convenient for us, and maybe redefining that. And what are we sacrificing for that comfort? What are we cutting off so that we can have that? Or what are we protecting? What is secure for us? And what are our values around that? This time period could create some issues around that. So anything is possible, though, with this combination, due to Uranus's input here, which Uranus is all about the unpredictable, unplanned events of great novelty. And so anything is possible, and potentially even breakthroughs around this. So color and beauty in various forms flowing out of the sign in sensual and intimate ways. This is another like aspect of that when it comes to Taurus. It's not just Taurus isn't just about the shadow side of the stubborn, unchangeable things, which can, certainly show up in this way. But when you get into the Uranus sake, this could create some actual strange ways of it being expressed, because we have a potential test for Taurus to come into space going, wait a minute, maybe change can be helpful here, but it will be done in a way that's uh, unexpected. And so this is a matter of not resisting that, not trying to force a resistance of that change, but to look at it, connect with it, and ultimately maybe even embrace it, depending on how it manifests itself. All right, we have Mars in Cancer towards the end of April. Mars has been in Gemini Mars will be in Gemini most of April. I talked about Mars and Gemini and the eternal youth, Peter Pan slash energy in that time. And, this is the transition from Gemini to Cancer is a transition from sort of just this mental play and creative imagination and boundless freedom into a sense of responsibility, into caretaking, responsibility into compassion. What is compassion? What is empathy? And how can the masculine itself, in masculine principle, connect us to that space? Um, it is of vital importance in connecting and protecting the culture. Seeing the sort of the long-term building of that culture. So that in that area of the sky, I want to kind of connect with it. It's called zero Cancer. This is the June solstice point where the sun would be at the June solstice, which is just a few months away. So what does that look like? So April 23rd, we have that right here, Mars at zero Cancer. There's the galactic equator, also known as the plane of the galaxy. And we can see this yellowish orange line, the ecliptic. And this is where Mars will be on April 23rd at that point at zero Cancer. This is in the center of what is called the sacred hoop of stars. You see many of these stars right here, Capella in the constellation Auriga, Castor and Pollux in the Twins, and Alcyon and the Pleiades stars, and Aldebaran in the Bull, and then of course the stars of Orion. This comes from the sacred hoop of stars, comes from the mythology and the stories from the Lakota tribe in North America. I saw a recent post from I think it was Sky and Telescope that called it the hexagon of stars, and yeah, to some extent it could on a literal sense, like you could connect it in a hexagonal type way, but from a symbolic, from a spiritual sense, it's much more of a sacred hoop of stars. It's a really powerful, shamanic level, uh, starry region of the sky with a lot of first magnitude stars, and they're kind of grouped together in this sense that it's that as above, so below. It's that it connects us to the land. It connects us to sort of that experience of souls coming through that silver gate to be incarnate here on this planet Earth here on a spiritual shamanic sense. So we're connecting with that. For Mars is opening up that territory, and that with Cancer there, it's that you might say that nurturing cradle of nourishment for as the soul comes in to incarnate and be nourished and be in the womb of the mother or of the earth, to be raised into its maturity, at least from a, might say, ideal perspective. But that obviously is not always the case, and why we have the world as we do here. But this is a chance for us to maybe connect with how the masculine connects to it, and how we can further and I'd say support the masculine in this way, and how the masculine can support us. So it's not just a one-way road, but it's going from this space of personality, the space in Gemini and space of personality and imagination, and that has nothing to do with responsibility, and to like going, oh, wait a minute, now we need to take care of the children. Now we need to have a safe and secure place for it, and to raise it compassionately without a certain bias, without a certain prejudice. And yeah, that's and especially goes into the area of education as well. So when it comes to raising children, so this is sort of the really powerful symbolism here as Mars is activated that sign of Cancer as it goes through that area there. All right, then we get to a full moon on April 26th. This full moon takes place in the sign of Scorpio at 7 degrees, 706 Scorpio, between the constellations of the Priestess and Scales. I'm going to show you a night sky picture of that here in just a moment. Planet Uranus will only be 3 degrees from the sun at that time, so it'll be in the opposite part of the sky. So Uranus definitely contributes to the experience of this full moon in Scorpio, bringing a vibrant pulse of scorpionic desire for vitality and feeling of aliveness. This is a passionate moon and a stirring of unsettled feelings with a strong, luminous will. It can feel like the moon is full for about 3 days during this time, but it will still be in Scorpio. So on the 26th and 27th, this feeling won't be there just on that one moment of exactness, mathematically exact. But the fullness of the moon, from a shamanic perspective, we're connecting into that space for a period of 3 days. But for about 2.5 of those days, the moon is in Scorpio. And so that's the energy that I'm talking about here in this slide. So the strength of life force will be energized on unexpected events of great novelty. Transmitting through Uranus and the Sun in Taurus there. So I want to bring to attention. So this is not just a 1 moment, a 1 minute, or 1 hour occurrence. That this is going to be a continuing of the discharges of the sideways spinning planet Uranus, which is the planet that it has kind of that extreme motion, which makes sense for astrologically for the planet Uranus. All right, so here's the full moon, and what we're seeing here. So when you're looking at the full moon, it'll wash out a lot of these stars when you're out there because it's pretty bright. So you may not see these 2 main stars of the scale, Zubanel Shamali and Zubanel Janubi. And then Spica will probably be seen since it's not only a little farther away, but it's a brighter star. And off the screen here is Arcturus. You'll also see that star coming. They're both at the longitude of 24 Libra. And this represents, connected to, especially Spica, represents the deeper connection to the feminine's relationship to the earth and our own Earth Mother. There is a really powerful, might say, symbolism there of Spica representing the shaft of wheat or grain that the priestess is holding, and its connection to the rhythms of our planet, the seasonal energy that we're tapped into, and we live off of the skin of this planet Earth. And then we also see what you'll see also coming up that evening on the 26th is the Scorpion constellation, with the star Antares being the brightest alpha star here in that constellation. And this is, all of these stars are in the sign of Sagittarius. So as you look at this, it's not the Scorpio sign. I mean, we can see the moon is in Scorpio here, in this, sort of between these 2 constellations. But all of these stars, in fact, the claws and the head of the Scorpion are all those at the early degrees of Sagittarius. So you just, as you're connecting with it, as you're navigating these stars, you can connect with these yourself, and to be able to find your way through as you learn about the sky and the stars and how to navigate that. And then, depending on one's latitude on the Earth, you may be able to see the stars of Centaurus coming up. and the also connected to the stars of Lupus, which is the sort of a wolf-like figure. And this can be more powerfully seen in the southern areas of the United States, and especially you get into Mexico and south, that you can start to really fully see these constellational dynamic happening here. It's really powerfully represented. It really does look like a centaur rather than the Archer constellation, which only vaguely resembles anything like a centaur. Okay, so I want to talk about the last thing is Pluto, and how on April 16th, the Sun squares Pluto at 2646 Aries Capricorn. So the Sun in Aries and Pluto in Capricorn. Whenever the Sun moves into a square with an outer planet, it signifies, meaning outer planet, meaning that Jupiter and beyond, it signifies that that planet's about to shift direction. That means that Earth is either catching up with that planet, or it's, you might say, speeding away from it. And so that is what is at stake here. And this shifting of direction creates an emphasis on that area of the sky. And in this case, Pluto moving into retrograde 10 days later on the 26th, and this is right within a degree of the US's natal Pluto position. So when the United States was on July 4th, 1776, Pluto was at very close to where Pluto is right now. And so it's the return of Pluto back into its space. And this is a part of what we're experiencing here in the US and its ramifications around the world. It's a powerful death rebirth for the US. This is a deeper shedding of what we once thought we were, and also a reacquaintance of what we were, and how do we go about moving into the future after a composting of structures and systems and ideals and politics, and also all the shadow how this country was created in the US and seeded from Europe and other places, and the people that were on this land before, the natives. The shadow of that, well, a lot of that was buried in the, not found in many of the original, certainly history books and what was being taught, and the full dynamic of that. So this is the revelation of that, and the potential opportunity for healing, for coming together, and for making the shadow into the light, and allowing us to see it and merging with it, integrating it in a healthy way. So these next few years are about that for Pluto, and to be able to see that, and the inequalities, economic, racial, and the educational inequalities, all that exist everywhere. This is bringing those to the forefront, and we now get to see the full dynamic of this, the full raw primal energy, and go, hey, we can't ignore this anymore. All right, so here's the rest of the sort of the main bullet points of a Pluto return. I'll keep sharing about it, and in fact, I want to do a more deeper dive into just having a Pluto, just talking about the Pluto return. And I've been working on other projects, so this one is definitely going to be starting to, one might say, climb the ladder of my next videos that I'm going to move into. But one could, some astrologers might look at the entire time that Pluto's in Capricorn as the Pluto return, 2008 to 2024, and you could point to certain events that took place. Certainly in 2008, the economic, recession that took place, the housing market collapse, and the high unemployment rates at that time that were coming into form as Pluto moved into the sign of Capricorn. Certainly there were other factors there as well, but that was one of them. So we can see that this is, this is being able to face our fears. We're detoxifying things, and in the process, there is a certain level of chaos, and chaos is actually extremely useful and important, and in order to for us to be able to see that we can't control everything, and that we need to see what's really going on, and chaos helps us do that. Not to say that we need to sow that, but it's important to recognize when it does come up, to understand how we can work with it on a more healthy and conscious level, rather than be at the effect of it only, and just keep reacting. All right, so this is also a period where there's a storm before the calm. So it doesn't mean that everything's going to be much better after 2024. This is going to give us a much deeper perspective than we would have ever had in the years past. That we're now ready, uh, whether we want to or not, to be in this space in order to confront all of these issues, all of these problems, and the duality of our lives. So, all right. That would be how these insights and sharings of the astrological timings here in April 2021. As a shamanic astrologer, I do readings and classes and events, astrocartography, and this is based on Daniel Giammario's shamanic astrology paradigm and this shamanic astrology mystery school. You can find out more there on the website shamanicastrology.com, and my own website inspiralnexus.com. And feel free to share and like this video if you so desire. There'll be many more, and if you're watching this and not a subscriber, feel free to check in, because you'll get automatic updates with this video if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. So I look forward to doing more and sharing more with you all, and I wish you all the very best, and have a peaceful rest of your day and week. Thank you.